Hey guys, today we're having Mike Tomshinsky, the founder of MemoCards. Hi Mike,
Hey,
how you doing? You alright?
yeah, I'm right.
Thanks
How
a
are
lot
you?
for coming today, and as always, the first question, your background. What did you do before and what you're doing right now?
Okay. So I studied quite a lot. I have 2 degrees, BA in jurisprudence, MA in economics. I also worked a lot before, but in a completely different field. So IT startup is something new for me.
How did you come up with this idea of MemoCards?
I believe it's the best way that I came to it. It's my own pain, as starters call it. 1.5 year ago, I moved to Israel, and I had a problem that was called how to learn Hebrew. So before I studied 2 languages, English and German, and I knew quite well that it's quite a difficult and time-consuming process. So I thought about how it could be more efficient, and if there are some methodology or approaches that would make this process more efficient.
So, would you say that your business idea came from your own personal problem that you faced?
Exactly, exactly.
Right. Did you do lots of research before? Did you come up with business plan or something in advance?
Um, yes and no. So what I did, as I told you, it's my pain. So what was the starting point? I just started to look what kind of solutions. I mean, for desktop or for mobile, if there are some applications that would help me to solve my problem. At the moment that I recognized that there is no efficient solution for it, I decided to make a startup. So back to your question, yes, I think it was a kind of research before we started it. Definitely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your team? Because probably you work with several people. What's
That's
sort
right.
of their background and what's your role in your team?
Okay. So I think it's quite an interesting story about it. As I told you, we started it as an application that would help us to learn Hebrew. So 1.5 year ago, I found myself in Ulpan. It's a place for to learn Hebrew. Here in Israel, it was in Jerusalem, and um, the people around me they were in the same circumstances, so they had the same pain, and there were a lot of interesting people also. So my roommate was a guy from St. Petersburg with an IT background in marketing, and another co-founder of our company is a girl, also from Russia, with strong linguistic background. So, I mean, a perfect starting point for a startup. Marketing specialist in language, so it's just started with it.
You told that you studied economics and law before,
Yeah, exactly.
so you don't have a formal formation in IT.
No, but that's another interesting point. I had never studied nothing about the computer science, but I had the computer from 1989 at home. So all my life is connected with the computer, and I was always, and I mean, it's a part of my life, and I love everything about computer, IT, devices, and everything about it.
So you're really into it.
Yeah,
Let's talk about MemoCards right now. I've been using this app for a while, and I think it's brilliant. Could you tell us a little bit more how many languages you've got there and how does the whole thing works?
okay. Right now we have 6 languages. Um, English, Spanish, French, German, Italian, and Russian. Um, but but In terms of the startup and MVP, minimum value product, right now at this moment, I think that 1 year ago when we decided to do this, we should focus just on one language. The idea is that it's not a big deal to extend the language base and add new languages. It's much more difficult to make the application handy, nice, and comfortable to use. So I think it was a small mistake to focus on six languages at that moment. So regarding our plans, a few days ago I met some guys in Moscow, and we agreed to make a partnership, and they have a big database of languages, 37 languages, that we could add to the application. So regarding the language part, linguistic part of the project, we are completely covered. So right now, I think we should focus on the application itself as a platform.
Your plan does include adding Hebrew language as well.
Yeah, sure. Because these guys have Hebrew as well, so we could just add to the application Hebrew.
On our website, there were several questions that people posted when they sort of knew that you're coming. So one of the questions comes from Alexandra. She said, "How do you manage to, include these polysemantic words that can have several meanings, like, the key or to get, or these sort of words? How do you manage, to incorporate them in your application?"
It's a good question. Um, Unfortunately, right now we don't manage this problem. We believe that it's very important to learn the first and the main meaning of the word. When you are done with it, you can add to this meaning another meaning of the word. And it's much easier to do this. So the answer is we don't manage it, but we plan to manage it later. It's our plan to do this.
You have launched MemoCards on Apple Store. Could you tell us a little bit more about the whole process? How does it work, and was it hard or not?
It was a big mess. um, I thought it would be a straightforward process, like development is finished, we take the binary, send it to Apple. 1 week after, we have an approved application. Unfortunately, it was a bit more difficult. Um, it took 3 weeks instead of 1 week. We got 2 refuses from Apple within the process. We had some problems with in-app purchases because all the languages that you can study within MemoCards, you have to obtain it within the app as in-app purchases. So we had some problems with. We solved them, but it took a long of time to do this.
How does it work normally with Apple? I mean, if you got refused once, do they explain you the reason for being refused, or they just said, you basically should fix some problems?
Maybe there could be some problems, but I mean, in terms of understanding and communication, but in our case, um, everything more or less was quite clear. Like, we really understood what the problem was. So, but my experience is that Apple, the guys are quite reasonable. You really understand what they mean, and they don't. If they refuse, there is some reason for it, and you understand what the reason is.
Do you plan to go to Android market as well?
Yes, but as I told you a few questions before, I think the most important in the startup is to focus on the so-called MVP. So the idea is we should first of all polish the current version for the iOS, make it perfect, and after it, we can think about Android, iPad, and other platforms. By the way, after the start, I received a lot of letters from developing guys that said like they offered me to develop a version for Android for the Microsoft mobile platform. But I strongly believe that we should postpone this process. We should first of all polish the current version. It should be perfect.
MemoCards was downloaded more than 5,000 times within first 5 days, which makes it to be ranked among 5 top educational programs now, right? In 3 countries. What's the secret of success here?
Um, actually, I don't consider it as a success. It was quite occasionally. I didn't have the experience in promoting applications, um, and what I was doing is just spreading my activity among different possibilities. So one of them was an IT forum, Russian IT forum. Maybe you know this, Haber. Um, and I just wrote an article about how we came up to the idea and what was behind it, the background of the process, and I suddenly got this 5,000 downloads. Why occasionally? Because actually we made an announcement that was spread among our news wires and all the websites, and didn't work out. I mean, that is that you send the announcement, and the feedback or some review, it can be written a few days after, or a week after, or months after. So you can't really forecast when the traffic of users will come to you. And actually, it didn't work out yet. I mean, we sent it, but there was no wave of users that came to us from this announcement. Um, and after we received some back reports from the users, we decided to pause this process, not to accelerate it. I mean, okay, there are no reviews on the website, no problem. We should fix the bugs that were found after the launch, and after it, we can go further with the promotion. So, back to your question, 5,000 users is not a big success. It was quite occasionally, and what I really think is important about it, that we had the possibility to hear some feedback from the early adopters. The people sent us a lot of emails, I think around 200 emails, and told us, guys, nice application, but you should fix this, and this, or this is not very clear. You should improve this and this. All the stuff. And after a year of development, when you lose the focus on some stuff, you don't really feel. I mean, if you're a developer, you think everything is everything is clear in the application because it's your child. And finally, it's not. So when people send you some feedback, it's very important to hear them because they are the final users that will use it.
One of our readers, John S., he asked, how did you come up with initial money? How did you raise initial money, initial capital to start your business?
Okay. So the answer is 3F, friends, family, and fools.
Okay. So was it enough originally? Or you had to raise more later?
It was enough for the first year of our development. Actually, we didn't have any big expenses. But I mean, at the first stage, you don't have any activity that is very money consuming. So when you launch the product, yes, you will have to start with the marketing, with the promotion, and it's very money consuming. So first year it was financed by my dad and myself. So right now we are at the moment when we have to raise the money to continue the project. Um, we can call it seed.
In your case, what is generally the best way to raise money? You're looking for sort of companies right now, for private investors, for venture capitalists? How does it work?
Unfortunately, I'm not very experienced in this process because it's my first startup. But as I understand it, um, the best option to raise money right now is to find the right private investor. The difference is, or the point is that the venture capitalists, they are looking for some perspective projects that will have a high valuation in a few years. In our case, um, it's quite an interesting startup, but I don't think it will be next Google in a few years. So in my case, we should look for private investors that will uh, give us around 100 or 200,000 US dollar, and maybe in a few years they will get back around a few millions. So this,
That sounds impressive.
yeah, this is about startups.
Inna D asks you, what's the most traits of your character as an entrepreneur?
So what exactly helps me to be a good entrepreneur, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Um, I think there is no answer on this question because the important thing in the entrepreneurship is that you have to consolidate everything inside you. It's not about something one solid. Um, you have to be smart. You have to manage some stuff. You have to go into the details. So it's about everything. It's not about something one. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Well, our next question, it's sort of similar. Maybe you could summarize it a little bit.
All right.
Kevin Jones, he asked, what is your summarized roadmap to be number one, to be the best?
In the life or in the project?
Shall we say in general?
um, I think it's a question about the philosophy and not about the startups. Um, I wouldn't emphasize one point. As I told before in the previous question, I think you have to be very balanced. Everything should be fine and harmonical inside of you. So this is the way to be the first.
Um, could you explain why Israel is sometimes called the capital of startups? They normally say that it comes second after United States, in terms of the number of new startups, in terms of small businesses, small enterprises. What's the secret there?
Um, the secret in the startups is always inside the people that are doing the startup. So I think the point is inside of these people, inside of the Jewish people, their character, um, they're willing to do something new. They are not afraid, frustrated of trying themselves on a new field to risk. Um, I think this makes Israel the second Silicon Valley. The people that are working here and are doing the startups.
What do you think is the role of education in the career of entrepreneur? Is it important? Is it very important or not much?
Okay, um, sure, it's important, but if you ask me, what kind of education? I think it's not very important if it's an academic education, I mean the university, institutes, or anything else, or yourself. I mean, if you look on Steve Jobs, for example, the guy didn't finish his university, but it doesn't mean that the education is not important. I think a successful entrepreneur is a guy that is studying all his life. While he's studying in the university, or he's at home and reading something, or he's on the web and reading. So even in the startup, it's everything about studying, 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 studying. Like you made a mistake, you made a conclusion. Never do this, or do this way. So a successful entrepreneur is a guy who's always studying.
Our project In2up promotes self-employed culture, but there are many people outside there that want to do something, but they're afraid. What would you advise them to start their own business?
Not to be afraid.
That's well said. Now, finally, it's a time for table tennis questions.
All right.
When we ask you a question with two options as an answer, and you pick up one.
Okay.
Shall we go?
Yeah.
Steve Jobs or Bill Gates?
Steve Jobs.
iPhone, BlackBerry, or HTC?
iPhone.
Going to a party or staying home?
Both.
Mercedes or BMW?
BMW.
Fruits and vegetables or fast food?
Fruits and vegetables, definitely.
Putin or Medvedev?
No, neither.
Egg or chicken, what was first?
Let me think. I had the answer to this question. I think it was the chicken.
Why?
Or the egg. No, it was the egg because the egg was something new that was different from the chicken.
Being married or not being married?
Married.
God believer or atheist?
Don't know.
Great, I think we're done for now.
Mike Tomshinsky startup specially for In2up.